What's up, peeps, and welcome to Gurney's Projects, episode 2 of the upcycling of the old oil barrel into an outside table. Now, for those of you that missed it last time, and just for a general recap, let's just go over episode 1 and find a few highlights.
We went through the concept and a drawing, so we knew how big our bits of wood had to be. We then cut those bits of wood, and yeah, we needed some extraction. Then I explained how timber expanded, contracted, and what biscuit joiner was and how it worked. We then glued all our planks together and made sure they were level. Once the glue had dried, we'd use our little jig and drew out our circle. We then cut out the circle with our jigsaw, which took ages, but we got there in the end. Then we finally managed to get our 3 reinforcing bars in, and that was the end of episode 1. So let's crack on with episode 2.
So with no further ado, let's crack on and rebate out this table, ready for our LED lights. To get a perfectly round circle, we're going to be using this jig I made earlier. And also we're going to be using some extraction this time, because last time I made way too much dust. First things first, let's just set up our jig here. So we have our pivot point with the screw in, and that just needs to go into the center of the table there. So we'll just do that. And I've set the radius on this so it misses these shorter reinforcement bars, but unfortunately it catches the longer one, but I couldn't go out any further without the lights being basically on the edge. So that should work out quite nicely, and we only cross 1 bar rather than 3. So with that rebate cut in there, we can loosely put in our LED strip just to see what we've got and cut it down to size and hold it down with some random garage ornaments. So the story with this LED set is it was just a cheap and cheerful set off Amazon, no more than 15 quid, and it's one of those sets where you wrap the LEDs around a tree and stake your solar panel in the ground. So what I've done is I've just taken one of those and adapted it to fit on the table basically. So I cut the LED strip down from 5 meters to whatever this needs to be, and then re-siliconed on the end cap. I cut down this wire here, so that's no longer nearly 2 meters, it's now only a few inches. I've 3D printed a cradle that holds the solar panel, so we can fit that in the table. I've done it at a slight angle because I was a bit concerned about rainwater building up in there, so I've done it at an angle there just to let the rainwater fall through those holes and onto the floor. And what we need to do is cut out this hole here to let this sit through. That hole will go right through the table. And then on the top side, remember this is the underside of the table, so on the top side we're going to have this 3D printed grill. This will be glued to the top edge of that, like that. So this bit will be screwed on the other side of the table, on the top side of the table, holding this all in place. Now granted, this might not let as much sun through as I would like, but it's the only thing I could think of which would be tough enough to take someone putting a bottle of beer on it or whatever and not damaging the solar panel. So that's going in. It's going to be rebated in as well, so it's sort of flush with the table, or as close as we can get it to be nice and neat. Let's give this a little test, shall we? Let's just turn this on. Not bad, it's all working fine. And there's different modes here. There is a remote for this as well. Very nice. So next stage, cut out this hole, glue these two together, and get this kind of set up and ready in place. I can't really put anything in permanently at the minute because I still need to treat and stain everything and paint these strips black. But we're going to get everything set up and ready to go. Welcome to the top side of the table. As you can see, we haven't quite finished sanding anything yet, or staining or preserving anything, so you just have to use your imagination for now. It will be a dark colour when it's done. I just wanted to show you the solar panel and where we've got to. So you just see me rebate out the pocket for this to sit in, so now it's level with the top of the table, which is quite nice. All that kind of went to plan. I've left a bit of space around either side just to allow for sort of expansion, contraction of the timber. Off camera, I glued this top piece of the cradle to the bottom piece, which you can just about see there. And it's dark enough in here that if we turn this on, we get some light. So far, so good. Next thing we need to do is just do a pilot hole for the center of the table, because we're going to have a parasol running through here eventually, but I'm waiting for some parts to turn up for that. And I think we can still just crack on with getting the 3 fixing holes done to hold it to the barrel. So let's crack on with that.
A few moments later.
I'm just going to try a little bit of an experiment with these holes. I'm just going to try putting a drill bit in my router to go through the table, because this table's quite thick. It's 40mm thick. I just want these holes to be dead straight, otherwise it's going to upset us later on when we come to getting everything centralised on the barrel. So obviously the router has got a straight plunger on it. So let's give this a little go. I'll probably have to manually go in 15mm or something first, carefully. But then once it's sat down on here, I should be able to just push down and that should be nice and straight. So I'm going to try that with these 4 holes that we need to drill. So, wish me luck. Here we have our 4 holes. There is our centre hole. That will eventually be opened up to 40mm to allow a average 38mm parasol through. But like I say, we've got some parts turning up because we need to do something clever with the barrel, because obviously the parasol needs to pass through the table but then through the barrel as well, and we don't want any water getting in where it shouldn't do. So you'll have to check that out in episode 3. Meantime, we have 1, 2 and 3 fixing holes. I used the router just to do a nice straight pilot hole and then opened up to 13mm just to give us plenty of tolerance. So we will have an M8 bolt going through there, but it's going to have a 40mm washer with it, so we've got plenty of room to play around and to find the hole on the barrel when we line it all up. Talking about the barrel, let's have a look at that. If you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button below your screen and subscribe to the channel and hit that bell for more videos in the future. This is all free. Let me introduce you to our barrel. Now this is just a very standard 200 litre barrel. The outside diameter is 582mm and the height is 851mm. So very standard. I got this at a bargain price from Facebook Marketplace. It was a tenner, which I thought was pretty good considering the condition it's in. You can get them cheaper, about £5, but usually they're quite sun damaged and rusty. But this is nice and clean, which is exactly what I want. So let me show you what we need to do to this. The first thing I've done is I used a heat gun and peeled off the safety sticker on top, and there was a large one on the side. So we just peeled those off with a bit of heat and then used some white spirits to clear that up. The second thing I done was mark the center of the barrel. Now this can be quite difficult and daunting, but after a little bit of internet research, I found the easiest way to do it was to run a ruler across here. I just pushed the ruler up as far up as I could, and then I just sort of mark the center, and then directly perpendicular to that, so off there 90 degrees, that's just a mark I used to do that. You do the same thing down this end, and I mark the center. I just marked the center so I had the ruler the right way around either end. Then I could run my line, and then you just go from that corner to that corner and that corner to that corner, and there where it crosses over is your center. I've done a few checks with the ruler and it all seems to work out. We need to drill some drain holes just in case any rainwater gets through and sits on here. I don't want it sitting on here and rust, because this is obviously all steel and over time it may rust. So I'm going to put some holes right through. I'm going to do 3, I think. 1 through there, there and there. I'm going to use riv-nuts, M6 riv-nuts, but I'm going to drill out the thread. And the idea of the riv-nut is it bridges through, because these oil barrels are made a bit like a tin can, basically. So this top is actually just pressed on. So you'll find around these edges, it's actually a skin, like a double skin. You're going to go through the top part of the barrel and then out through the the side, and in between there'll be like a hole, basically, or like a seam that goes down into the barrel. So by using the M6 riv nut, it's going to bridge that hole and do it tight, and we'll just seal it up with a bit of sealant either end, and that should hopefully keep the rainwater out. And then also we need to put our wooden top back on here, line up our centres, and then I think I'm going to use the router again because I quite like that. We'll put a metal drilling bit inside, and we'll go dead straight again through the centre in 3 places, and then we'll put M8 riv nuts in. Once everything's in place and everything's drilled up, we can paint it all in body under seal for cars, and then we're going to add a nice rubber sort of trim around the top here, just so it has a nice join to the top of the table, and it'll finish it off nicely.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
Okay, so I've done a little bit of experimenting on this first hole. It wasn't quite as easy as I thought. Okay, so in the end I couldn't use an M6. I had to go for M8 because an M6 just simply didn't reach far enough inside the barrel and was just closing up too early. So we've opened the hole out, gone for an M8, gone for M8 in aluminium. So still won't rust, but that way I can kind of just work it and sort of cut it and splay it out a bit so the water will hopefully run down and through a bit better. It might look a bit ugly and everything now, but to be honest, when it's all covered in under seal, you're not going to notice, and we'll be able to fill in all these little gaps and things with under seal. Let it all sort of go off, and then we'll just do that in 2 other places. And to be honest, if it looks a bit ugly, it doesn't matter because no one's ever going to see this. The table's obviously going to be on top of this. You only see this if you ever want to dismantle it and move it. Let's do this on the other 2 sides. Okay, so we have all 3 of the drain holes in. 2 went alright, but this one went horribly wrong. As you can see, there's a hole there that goes through into the barrel, so that's not good. So what I'm going to do is just gack all that up with gasket, builder's glue, whatever I can get my hands on really, and just try and reseal that. Should be alright, I think, once I smeared it all in there. I'm going to go over the top of them all anyway and just seal them in with some sort of sealant, I think, before I do the under seal layer as well. So the next thing I need to do is just run the sander over this and just get it all sort of roughed up and ready so it's a good keying surface for the under seal. And obviously around this rim it's a little bit rusty in places, so we just run the sander over that as well, get it all nice and tidy, and then we can continue with our M8 fixings that hold the tabletop on.
A few moments later.
Things are starting to get exciting. This is what it looks like so far. The top's going to be a lot darker, and obviously that big hole's going to have something in it. You have to use your imagination. Anyway, I had to get these 3 bolt holes central to the barrel. Now we've got a centre hole in the table and a centre hole in the barrel. Initially when I put this on, you couldn't see anything through these holes. No matter how much I shone a light in it, you couldn't see anything on the barrel because it's black, I guess, so that doesn't help. So what I've had to do is actually dangle a light inside the barrel, and I've just used a bit of wire just to stop it from, so I can retrieve it afterwards. Now we've got light coming through, you can see the holes. This is a centre hole in the actual tabletop, and then if you look through, you can see there's the central hole in the barrel with the light shining through. So once we had that set up, all I had to do was just spin the table around and make sure these 3 holes weren't over those caps or anything. When they were clear, straight down in the centre of those holes. Once I made a guide hole, I just opened them up to 11.5 mil. There's 1 there, 2, 3. Those are the 3 M8 riv nuts installed. 1, 2, and 3. And I couldn't resist, I had to put some silicone on these and start getting these ready So as you see, I just sort of filled in all the little gaps and holes and things and tried to make it as smooth as I could. Although I hate working with silicone, it's horrible stuff. Before I close out this episode, I just want to get 2 more things done. Put a central hole on the bottom side as well. Clean up like the bottom edge there, get the bits of rust off and stuff. Do a bit of rust treatment just on the rim here. But they will be covered in a rubber trim anyway, so I'm not particularly worried, but a bit of belt and braces. Let's flip this over and get that central hole drilled on the bottom. And that brings us to the end of episode 2. As much as I'd love to carry on, I simply haven't got the time today. So, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit the thumbs up button down below. And also, if you want to see more videos in the future, please hit that subscribe button also down below. And then that way you'll be able to keep up with all my harebrained projects. Join us for episode 3, where we'll be tying this all up, hopefully. So that means staining the table, finishing putting the parasol holes in with the tube and everything. You'll see how that works. And we're going to add a coat of lacquer to the barrel as well, just to protect it. And we'll get all those lights screwed on and done. So, if it's broken, fix it. And if you need one, make one. I'll see you next time, guys. You take care.